Hello, everyone out there, and welcome to another episode of Shaken and Not Stirred. Thank you for joining us tonight, myself and Adam. How are you doing tonight, Adam?
I am quite well. How are you doing?
That's good. That's good. I'm doing quite well, especially considering right above us, I feel like Terry Hatcher is watching me as I do this show. We got this background here on YouTube, and I just also got done watching the movie here not more than 5 minutes ago, so I'm excited to dive in. What are you been watching? Anything new this week?
Well, I did finally get around to watching Begonia. So I did. Did you watch that one?
I sure did. Any thoughts?
Yeah, they really did a good job. I mean, he always does of making a lot out of a little, not using elaborate sets, not using a lot of CGI and stuff like that. But it's definitely, like I said, took a kind of fun idea, and kind of it was obviously a dark comedy, and made it very poignant.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, like the director Yorgos Lanthimos, he's done like stuff like that. Like he did like with The Lobster, that's kind of a crazy movie, and Poor Things, and which Emma Stone was in it as well. So I mean, the dude makes some weird stuff, but this was kind of a little simpler, I think, than those movies, if that makes any sense. Yeah. But there's more substance in it than what's on surface, obviously. And obviously it's got a, twist ending to it and everything. And yeah, it kind of sticks with you. So it wasn't like, I wouldn't say it's a spectacular film, but it's definitely one that the day after I watched it, I was thinking about it most of the day. So it obviously did something right,
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to give credit to Jesse Plemons' performance in the movie. I really think he did a good job working with what he was supposed to in the movie. And obviously, I like the twist. I like all the other little things. And I would agree with you. I don't know. I haven't really sat down and thought about my top movies, even of the year yet for the Oscars. But I'm sure it's up there because it was pretty good. But some of his other movies for me, they're either hit or miss. But this one hit more than this.
Yeah, so this one kind of stuck with you a little bit more. It was, like I said, a little more poignant, and I just thought it was funny. The weird thing about it, the funniest parts I found in the movie were probably the way Emma Stone was talking to Jesse Plemons when she first got captured or whatever, because she's still talking to him like a CEO, and then she's like, here's what's going to happen. I'm not in control in here, but I know what goes on out there. Like she speaks like a person, running a seminar would speak, to make them understand, keep direct eye contact. And she was like dotting, she was like checking all the boxes and everything with the conversation. And for some reason, I found that like really funny that she was like acting like that in that particular situation. Now, is it realistic that someone would in that particular scenario? No, but then we kind of find out why, later on, that she's kind of so calm about it. But yeah, it was, I don't know, it was pretty cool. And it's definitely worth people watching, at least once, get a view in.
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
Other than that, I've been, watching. I was watching All the President's Men.
Yeah, that it was on yesterday. I was watching it.
Yeah, it's on Pluto right now.
I was watching it on Pluto too. You got me on this Pluto, man. Thank you.
Dude, it's fantastic. I was watching.
You got horror movies. You got action movies.
I was watching War Games again the other day on Pluto.
Oh, that's a good one.
And what else? Roadhouse was on BBC. No, it was BBC America. It was something else the other day. I was watching some of that. I knew you'd like that. So that's pretty much it. And Sunday at Imagine here in Portage, they're going to be playing Casablanca again. So I'm probably going to go see that again.
Oh, you gotta see Casablanca. And maybe just like last time, remember when you went home, it was on TV? And then
that was
on TV. Yeah, that was pretty.
Well, maybe someone will go with me this time. I don't know. Maybe not.
Hey, that's what makes you an awesome film film explorer that you're never going to miss out on a chance to see Casablanca.
No.
But here we are, into our next entree for James Bond. Why don't you get us all caught up for Tomorrow Never Dies?
So, Pierce Brosnan was a big success in GoldenEye. Everyone loved him as Bond. They loved the movie, and it's kind of at a point now where in Hollywood, where budgets are getting massively, they're basically just getting massive now. So, with the success of GoldenEye, they wanted to keep going with that, and it was, to keep up with the times, you got to figure it's 1997. So, and we mentioned this last episode. So, CGI and stuff like that were kind of starting to really come to the forefront of what people, wanted to see in Hollywood, and what was basically, different things they weren't capable of doing before that they are now. Fortunately, the Bond series up to this point really didn't rely on too much of that. And they use a lot of miniatures in GoldenEye, and this one they use miniatures as well. There's a little CGI, but there's not a whole lot of it. So, but this movie kind of got back to, this was almost like a Roger Moore film set in 1997 in a way. The way the villain is, and the way kind of like the action sequences are, just the way the movie's kind of set up. So now I think it works better in the Roger Moore era than it does this era, which is why I'm not a huge fan of this movie. But yeah, my brother pointed out it did really well going up against Titanic. But but although, hey, I'll tell you what, besides Titanic, I don't know if there was much going on that year that really came out that was really memorable. Besides, obviously Titanic was going to win everything, and it made more money than anything. But Tomorrow Never Dies still made a crap load of money. The budget they gave for it, though, was $110 million. And so, they weren't screwing around with that. And domestically here in Canada, it grossed about a little over 125 million. Worldwide, it was over 333 million, right around there. So they were making just money hand over fist with these. So they were really happy with the box office take. Critically, it was panned a bit, and I can understand why. It did not have the substance that GoldenEye did to it. This was more of an in-your-face. This was kind of more of a, and I don't want to say this, I guess, because I love this movie I'm going to mention, but it's more of a Rocky IV to Rocky, I would say. Basically, you have dialogue, you have exposition, action sequence, exposition, action sequence, exposition, action sequence. It's like in Rocky IV, you have montage, then a little bit of this, then montage, then a little bit of this, then montage, then you have the final fight and all that stuff. So this is kind of almost like that same formula in a way. And going back and watching it in the last couple of weeks, I'm going to give it a little more credit than I did before. I did not like this movie at all. I thought it was pretty much hot garbage. It's still not very good, but I liked it better this time around than I did before. So, and in between these now, I want to make mention that Albert Broccoli did die. So like at the end of the movie, you kind of see they do a little tribute to him for Albert Broccoli, who, him and Harry Saltzman pretty much started this whole Bond universe. So it was a pretty big loss in the Bond family, even though he wasn't nearly as involved or anything like that as he was previously. He was more of kind of a consultant, kind of behind the scenes. He kind of got the Gene Roddenberry, I shouldn't say treatment, but he was more like Gene Roddenberry towards the end of his life when he became like Star Trek, where he was kind of a consultant, but no one had to really do what he said. He had no power or anything like that. So Albert Broccoli, the difference is Albert Broccoli voluntarily went into that type of retirement. So, but he still had some influence, and he passed away before this started. And obviously since then, his daughter has kind of carried this whole thing on. So this film was directed by Roger Spottiswoode, and you may remember him from such films as Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Oh, classic.
Yeah. So he and definitely something that
Wow.
I was like, well, they really brought a heavyweight in for this one. But I'm being kind of a dick. But he also did remember the Schwarzenegger movie, The Sixth Day. He directed
Oh,
that movie.
that's my least favorite Schwarzenegger movie.
It's a lot of people's least favorite Schwarzenegger movie. So anyway, this is a guy they brought in to do this, but he kind of, I don't think he hurt the film any. It was kind of, I think the writing was kind of was what it was. Bruce Firestein wrote this movie, and it was based on obviously just Ian Fleming characters. It wasn't really an Ian Fleming story though. Um, excuse me. So Pierce Brosnan's back, obviously. Everyone was clamoring for his return for this. And then you had just an awesome performance by Jonathan Pryce as a villain. Just such an awesome, over-the-top villain.
Well,
And at
back
that
to your
point,
earlier point, real quick, before you go on, you was telling about the movie not being very good. I mean, what is this movie if you take Jonathan Pryce out of it? I mean, it could be very, very bad.
it
That's
could be, because if
yeah.
you don't have a charismatic villain like that, his plan, like his whole plot, here's what bothers me about this too. But he makes this work, but the whole plot is basically he's a media mogul that wants like basically a monopoly over all the media in the world. So he's actually causing incidents like in the South China Sea and such to like start wars, so he can be the first to report on them, because he's reporting on them before they even happen, because he's really creating all this stuff happening. And so the England and China, like, they don't know what's going on. They think each other is being hostile toward one another, and they're really not. They're just being played by kind of Jonathan Pryce here. But it's kind of ridiculous. At the beginning, they have like the torpedo drill that goes through the ship and stuff like that. Like, that's very Roger Moorish era, or like, late Sean Connery type stuff. And basically, he wants to not only control like TV rights, or the TV, mass media when it comes to like TV. He says one thing that bothers me most, he says, is magazines. Because I want magazines, newspapers. Because 1997, you already had like AOL and everything like that. Like, they never really mentioned like the internet.
No, they don't.
And you would think like, this is kind of like a futuristic thing. Like, he has a vision that was going to, and he doesn't include that. He says like, TV. He's like, newspapers, magazines. I want all this. It's like, you're missing the biggest one, dude, So it's like, that kind of just bugged me. But like I said, that's not Jonathan Pryce's fault. It's that that's just kind of the lazy writing itself. But he's awesome in it. And he's great at, it's cool because like he's so calm throughout, most of the movie, and charismatic, but then he blows up at certain spots too. So you really feel it more because he's so charismatic. So when he actually blows up about something, you really like get it. And then it's nice towards the end, which was kind of funny. He was racially mocking Michelle Yeoh and her fighting style in the ship at the very end. Like, he starts just like mocking her kung fu and stuff like that, which was kind of funny to see actually Jonathan Pryce do something like that. But at the time, the only thing I knew Jonathan Pryce from back then, so I was 16 when this came out, were the Infinity commercials. He'd always be on there drawing little things in the glass, and like the Infinity J30, and going through all that stuff. That's all I knew him from.
My mother used to watch this movie in the mid-'80s called Haunted Honeymoon, with Gene Wilder and Dom DeLuise and Gilda Radner, and he was in it. And that's about it for me. So
he had a small part in The Age of Innocence.
Yeah, he's in Brazil too.
And Brazil is awesome, and he's great.
Brazil is really awesome. That was the other thing that I knew him from.
So he's obviously a good actor, and he was great as a villain in this movie. So that was probably, to me, the strongest part of this whole film.
Now, did you see this at the movie theater?
I don't remember.
So that would be probably what Bond movies have you seen at the theater? I'm sure you've seen more than not.
I know I saw it when I did see GoldenEye, but see, I wasn't even able to drive yet. So I saw GoldenEye. I'm not sure if I saw Tomorrow Never Dies. The World Is Not Enough all the way on. I know I saw for sure. I'm not sure if I saw this.
Gotcha.
I probably did. I don't know why it wouldn't, but who knows? Anyway, Bond girls in this one. We have Michelle Yeoh, who plays Wei Lin, and she's basically a government agent from the People's Republic of China, and she's kind of cast as Bond's, basically kind of Bond's counterpart, and she's kind of casted to be equal in most ways to him. But they kind of know. They kind of it's kind of weird. They don't really have. They have good banter between them. They don't really have a lot of romantic chemistry. They kind of give hints of that, and she keeps like saying don't get any ideas, Mr. Bond. Like she says it 2 different times, like within like 15 minutes or 20 minutes or something. Which I don't. That's what I'm saying. Like the writing is kind of meh. And at the end they kiss and all that stuff, but there's not really much in the way of like romance, and like they don't develop it. They don't flush it out really well like they do in many Bond movies. And Terry Hatcher's in this, which honestly I just think it was kind of a complete waste of time to have Terry Hatcher in this. That was the last season of Lois and Clark, and she was filming, and she became pregnant and everything, and she was doing this film, and her character was kind of just like he's trying to get information from her, but I don't know. The whole sequence with her is kind of an albatross in this movie to me.
Yeah, I don't know why it's been such a long time I've seen the movie. When I just rewatched it, I thought her character was more in it. You're right, it's not.
Yeah, and maybe it was because she was pregnant, maybe because I don't know. But what I suspect was they wanted an actress not as well known as her at that point. And maybe they said, well, maybe we have a shot at getting Terry Hatcher. I don't know how that developed. And they said, well, she's kind of big right now. Let's just put her in it, because why wouldn't you, So they marketed her, like you can see behind you on this thing. Like they marketed her pretty heavily, more heavily than Michelle Yeoh even,
Mm-hmm.
So, and they knocked her off pretty quickly in the film, which is another thing that bugs me too, because, Jonathan Pryce has her killed. Elliot, I'm sorry, I'm going to call him by his evil name, Elliot Kava. He has her killed once he overhears a conversation. She suspects she knows Bond, previously, and she says, "Oh, you used to date my college roommate." And then he overhears her saying, "Do you still sleep with a gun in your pillow?" And then all of a sudden, like he's like, "Oh, well, they must have been together," and she could have been the roommate of the college girl she's talking about, her roommate. Sure. And her roommate told her that, or she like saw that one day, and she's like, "Holy shit, this guy's crazy," That one line right there should have not given any more away than, like, that's something like he would have been like, "What do you mean by that?" or "Why would you say that?" or But he's also a crazy villain, so he had her killed quickly by Vincent Schiavelli, who's in this too as an odd comic relief.
Yes.
I shouldn't say it odd. He came in as kind of comic relief at an odd point of the film, after Bond walks in there and sees her dead, and after he's done sniffing her for a second or two, the doctor comes in, Vincent Schiavelli, who we remember from Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Ghosts. Those are the biggest ones he was in, but he was also in Batman Returns.
He was
briefly. But he comes in and starts like being like kind of comedic, and he's sitting there next to like, Terry Hatcher's corpse on the bed while he's like trying to kind of be funny on the phone and blah 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 blah. So it was just kind of odd. Like that's why I'm saying the whole sequence just didn't make it. For me.
The movie didn't mesh. This was one.
Yeah, it just didn't, and I think it's kind of wasted screen time. It could have had something else. Anyway, so you also had Goetz Otto in this, and he plays Mr. Stampa, who is kind of, he's like your typical blonde Bond henchman.
Yeah.
From Red Grant to Narcos to the whoever, man. Like you just name, you can go to For Your Eyes Only. You can go, I don't know, just name a movie with a blonde henchman. He's one of them. So, but I mean, he's kind of got, you kind of learn towards the end. He's got like superhuman strength. He's picking Bond up with like one arm. He's taking like knives to the shoulder and all sorts of weird things. But his speaking parts, like he's very limited at that point as an actor. But he other than that, he was all right. And as just kind of your run of the mill henchman. Yeah. I mean, he was also if he eventually would be in like many years later, he had a part in Cloud Atlas. But other than that, I don't really know much more that he's really done. Anyway, so moving on there, we got Judi Dench back as M, and she's more in kind of a war room setting in this film with Jeffrey Palmer, who not coincidentally, I'm sure there was something to it. That was her co-star in As Time Goes By, the show they did in England, a British show. And Judi Dench and Jeffrey Palmer were husband and wife in that show. And so they brought him in to be an admiral. And he's kind of the admiral, who's very shoot first, ask questions later type person, whereas M's completely different. And you can see that in kind of the opening pre-title sequence. The rapport like those two have, it's like he's very rash and she's like, you need to calm down, like, let my guy do his job and blah, 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 blah. But, and like the opening sequence itself was pretty decent. It was all right. Like the action sequences, I have nothing bad to say about those.
You did like GoldenEye, that this would be a little in that ballpark, but I don't know. Maybe that was just me. I mean, it's not terrible. It's just, I don't know. There's a scene that, I don't know, it's because we've been talking about it too much, but you could tell the miniature set. It's like when the plane first comes down, when he's in it, it looks like a miniature set. But still.
Yeah, it's like I said, this movie is just a little bit lazier than the previous, and pretty much
it's not a good time. It's a great, it's still a James Bond movie, but
it's still a Bond movie, and like it's action, it's full of action, and like and they brought like, hey, movies like Rumble in the Bronx and things like that were kind of big at that time, which is kind of why they brought Michelle Yeoh in to have that kind of fighting. Like the newer Craig movies kind of piggybacked off of like the Jason Bourne films and that style of fighting and those sequences.
I liked her in this movie too, so I think she was okay in the movie. She did.
Who was that?
Michelle, yeah. I mean, I think she did a good job in the movie.
Yeah, she was fine. Like I said, I'm saying it was more the writing that held this movie back more than anything. The performances themselves weren't bad. Ricky Jay was in this as Henry Gupta, who was basically the Boris character from the previous film. He was a computer henchman, and I like Ricky Jay. He's a Paul Thomas Anderson veteran. He was in Boogie Nights, and he was in
he's good
and Magnolia. So like
he's in this movie Heist with Gene Hackman. He's a good actor.
Dude. That's also been on Pluto recently.
That's a great movie.
They've been playing it every night almost.
I like that movie.
And then you have Joe Don Baker's back as Wade. He's only in it for like a scene or two. So I mean, and then he's kind of gone after that. They never bring him back ever again, which was kind of disappointing.
Yeah, that is disappointing.
Because you could have had him throughout all the movies and, like I said, be the Felix Leiter character. Samantha Bond's back as Moneypenny, and she's, she has her few scenes in it and banter with Bonds and her sexual innuendos and all those things, going on with her. And Desmond Llewellyn, once again, is back as Q, and he has a nice kind of comedic scene in the rental place when Bond's getting his car. And this is actually Desmond Llewellyn's penultimate movie, too, because the next one would actually be his last film. And people thought he actually, he died and all that. Like, he actually died in a car crash. He didn't die of like old age or disease or anything. Yeah, people didn't really realize that. So that kind of rounds out the cast for the most part, the main cast. And but like I said, it's the casting's fine. The writing's not so great, I don't think. But it's kind of funny because like Jonathan Pryce is kind of like in this movie, almost like, and I was talking to my brother about this like many times, how like Frank Langella like overwhelms you in Masters of the Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Not a great movie, but it's fun bad.
It is.
But Frank Langella just kills it, dude. And I think Jonathan Pryce, just like in his scenes in this movie, absolutely just kills it kind of the same way. So, but like in the cinematography in this movie, here's the thing about this too. It's kind of weird when I saw the cinematographer was, because it's Robert Elswit, and I was kind of shocked when I actually looked that up, because he did, and he's also a Paul Thomas Anderson guy. He did Inherent Vice. He did There'll Be Blood. He also did Good Night and Good Luck with Clooney.
Oh yeah.
But like, if you look at this movie, like nothing about this movie really
stood out like that.
Yeah, you don't see, like you could not tell it was him. And all these movies I mentioned were made after this movie. So he probably didn't really have his feet wet yet and all that. But Yeah, if you could look at the strengths of this movie, it's definitely the action sequences. Jonathan Pryce. Jonathan Pryce was actually almost wasn't even in this. They actually asked Anthony Hopkins,
Really?
but he was on the set, but it was like so chaotic that like he was done in like less than a week. So he was like, it was just too chaotic. And then like they had I'm trying to think of who they're trying to get for oh, I know who it was. So I mentioned earlier that they're looking for someone different to play Paris Carver, who Terry Hatcher became. And I think they wanted to have Monica Bellucci do it.
Mm.
And she's kind of I think she just said no, but then she eventually was cast in Spectre in 2015 anyway. So she did get her Bond girl moment much later, almost 20 years later, 18 years later. But this movie made, like it was a lot of gadgetry and things like that, like kind of extreme action sequences, because GoldenEye kind of lacked those, like lacked the gadgetry and all that. So people
I
kind of
like when he gives him the car and it comes out of the box, like the way the box like just like opens. It's
yeah,
just like,
remote control on it, and like it's like they wanted to make sure that they were using some traditional Bond gadgetry and not getting away from it too much like they did in GoldenEye. Like you see, had some things in GoldenEye, but like you didn't really have a lot of Q gimmicks and gadgets and things of that nature. So they kind of want to make
like he said to me, he goes, I gave it a girl's voice, so because I knew you'd listen to it then.
which is, I mean, is he
It's true.
wrong? No.
No, he's not. No, it's a good quote.
Yeah, and like so, and then so, and the location of this movie, there's nothing really. It's filmed in Germany, and a lot of it was filmed in Thailand. It was actually a lot of it was not a lot of it, but some of it was filmed on what they call James Bond Island, which is the place where Man with the Golden Gun was filmed. So like that same place, they filmed parts of this movie in too, and then some scenes like off the coast of like Vietnam, right there they used. So, but it didn't stick out at all. Like the locations usually in Bond movies are a big part of what the films are. A big part of their identity. This one just kind of didn't have that. Like I said, it's kind of like Rocky IV. It's just here you go, action sequence, exposition, action sequence. Don't give a crap what's going on around it. And it just goes through. It's going to be, hey, it's going to be a thriller from the beginning to end. And it was one of the shortest Bond movies. It's just under 2 hours.
Yeah.
So they kind of crammed a lot in there. They could have probably,
Look, I didn't think I was going to make it watching it. I was like, oh, it's under 2 hours. Oh,
but that's the thing. Like you could have, if you made this movie 2 hours in just 10 minutes, give an extra 15 minutes or something of like Paris Carver or something added to it that kind of makes it a little, it gives it a little bit more. It would have done it justice, but it just kind of didn't. What I think did help this, and so far I think if I'm not mistaken, Octopussy is the only one that we really haven't agreed on when it comes to like themes and stuff that we like and don't. I like this theme to this movie by Sheryl Crow in the opening sequence, and it was a good choice for it. But I think the one they didn't go with, the Katie Lang version called Surrender, was a way better song. And I'm glad they mixed that song in throughout the film and then played it at the end. Because Sheryl Crow's song, like I said, it was pretty cool, but you only heard it in the opening theme, and that was it. That's all you really heard of that pretty much period. They mixed more of the Katie Lang song in, so I don't know why they just didn't go with it, but it is what it is, whatever. But
I
yeah,
I like the Sheryl Crow version and the Katie Lang version. You know why they went with Sheryl Crow, because at the time she was a hotter star and it was going to be able to sell more records. But Katie Lang song is really good though.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Katie Lang was big enough at that time, but I guess you're right. Like Sheryl Crow was huge.
See, Katie Lang's like 94, 95, 96. Like this is like the end of Katie Lang's like blossoming period. And Sheryl Crow just came out with a couple Tuesday Night Music Club. It's been a couple years getting.
And she was larger at that point than Katie Lang ever was, period. So like
that's true too.
So
but they don't take away Katie Lang's pride. I mean, because
no, I'm not taking anything away. I'm just saying, when it comes to actual sales, and and she's on the Billboard charts for this, and that.
And if you
So
really
like,
think of Sheryl Crow's total catalog, she doesn't really sing a song like this usually, so she does a pretty good job at it, given that.
yeah, and that's why I've always liked this one. I like this one. Like I said, GoldenEye. Not I love that movie, but the music in this movie is
They did a
well,
good job.
the opening theme of this movie is better. The music throughout GoldenEye I like a lot. The song at the end though by Eric Serra, I'm like, what the fuck is that? And this one, like I said, they played the Katie Lang song, so it was much. I thought this was much better, but that's pretty much the only thing it really has. Like David Arnold composed this song, so he's the one that mixed all this into the film, and I thought he did a great job doing it. Like not since like John Barry did it, like in all the other Bond films that someone mixed it so well. And also, this is the first Bond movie probably that had the Bond theme playing in it throughout the movie. You actually hear the 007 James Bond, Monty Norman theme playing quite a bit in this movie, which hasn't happened in a while. I couldn't remember the last one that really it was that prominent in. So they wanted to bring that back, bring the gadgetry back, put more action in there. So they kind of wanted to give you more of a throwback. And the thing was, GoldenEye was so damn successful. I don't know why they got away from some of the stuff that made that film work so well. They were afraid that they were going to, basically alienate older fans or something. But if that was the case, then GoldenEye wouldn't have done as well as it did. People wouldn't have liked it and been looking forward to this movie as much as they would have if that was the case. So I just don't think that was a great decision. But it is what it is. And like I said, it's better I shouldn't say the second time because I've seen it many, many times, but it was better this last viewing, or more tolerable than it was previously to me. So I don't know how many times have you seen that one before you watched it today?
2 times maybe.
And was it any different this time around than?
You know what it was? I'll be honest with you, and maybe it's just me. You take all the Roger Moore and even the Sean Connery ones, and for some reason, this feels more dated than those do. Like just the overall feel of it. I don't know if it's just the '90s technology in the film, but like when I go back and watch like The Man with the Golden Gun, I don't get like I feel like it feels cool. Where when I'm watching this, I feel this '90s. Like I'll be honest with you, Pluto had on a '90s movie yesterday called Disturbing Behavior. You ever hear that?
No, I remember that. Yeah.
So that's what was really kind of ironic that this movie got that kind of feeling too.
Yeah, it really does kind of feel that way because like the cutting edge technology they're kind of going for in this is something that is almost like in the past now. It's just so GoldenEye, because remember GoldenEye kind of utilized the World Wide Web and the internet and all that type of stuff more than this film did.
Yeah.
And you'd think they would expand on that a bit, but they just didn't. With the technology and everything.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Maybe it was just because I watched it now. Like I always like to put myself also empathetically in a dark movie theater watching this movie, like when it came out. Like if I was this age when it came out and I was going to see it tomorrow night at the movie theater, I'd have probably a different opinion than I even had it right now because it being a loud movie, out of the summer when it was released. But I don't know.
I mean, it was definitely, if you watch this Bond movie, you're like, oh, that's definitely 90s. That's definitely late 90s. It's kind of, it is what it is. But I love the way, too, like I want to mention, like, what's cool, so cool about Elliot Carver, too, is the way he's playing with, like, it's almost like he has an iPad, but it's like a keyboard he's got, and he's like typing. The way he types, like, it's just so cool the way he does that throughout the whole movie and starts typing things, and he's like, reading up there what the headline's going to be. But again, it's all about, like, if you look at what he's seeing on the big screen there, it's like it's a newspaper. And I know it's 1997 and we're not quite we're not near like smartphones yet. But like people had, at this time, more people had personal computers than ever before, obviously. And it started really blown up in the mid 90s with like, you know, Windows 98 was out at that point, and you already had Windows 95 obviously. So like people were on like a, you know, AOL. That was a big thing back then. People were like, you know, starting to utilize email on a regular basis for work purposes and personal and whatever. It was all much bigger. And it's like this movie was kind of like, if you're a media mogul that's doing something this, like, you know, on this large of a scale, you would think you would include something like that. You wouldn't be like, you know, magazines and newspapers and like, you know, this is the future of this. It's like, dude, that is going to shortly be the past. Very shortly be the past. So it's almost like, you know, I'm surprised he didn't mention, you know, like having, you know, I'm surprised he didn't have a fucking phone book or something. It's like, dude, it is, I don't know, it kind of just blows me, but I'm saying that is on the writing. The writing is probably the laziest thing about this movie. And they wanted to churn out, hey, let's just make something that's action packed. It has old school Bond gadgetry, some old school action type sequences, an old school villain. I mean, look at the way he dresses. That's a Bond villain type, you know.
Well, it's like he did his research. It's like he watched every other Bond villain and said, you know what? I want to hang with these other Bond villains. And he did a pretty good job at it.
He did. And the good thing about, you know, the Brosnan era, I do like, up until that one shitbag movie, I do like the villains in most of the movies. So, and you know, like in they had two villains basically in Goldeneye, and they had one villain here, and they also had like, you know, basically two villains in World Is Not Enough, and they went back to like one villain. But like the villains for most of the movies are pretty good in these films. So that's something I'm going to complain about. And like I said, this is no exception. The Bond girls, Michelle Yeoh doesn't get much screen time, but neither does Terry Hatcher. But like they can almost kind of cannibalize each other in a way. So you don't see much of them on screen as you like. And when you do see Michelle Yeoh on screen with Pierce Brosnan, the vast majority is in an action sequence. You know, when they're in her whatever that place she has there, and she has all of her equipment, all this stuff, but that's the most like dialogue they have between each other and everything, and explain to her what's going on and kind of feel each other out for this and that. So you kind of miss out on that. Like, you know, Goldeneye, Natalia was with them for the whole like second half of the movie, and they kind of slowly developed the romance, and that they kind of did a good job of like really pushing that along. And this one was kind of like, you know, oh, here she is. Okay, now you guys are going to be getting in a scuffle with whoever. Oh, now here she is again doing this. You see her again. Okay, now you guys will talk a little bit. Now you guys are kind of on the same team. But now it's an action sequence, action sequence, action sequence, and that's it. Movie's over. So they didn't really flesh out the characters very well, you know. And I think, like, you know, Paris Carver's character kind of just served like no purpose in this.
If you like good action scenes, though, they do deliver a couple good ones. The one on the bike, the motorbike,
the action sequences, and like, you know, when he was controlling the car from the back seat in that parking garage, like, so the action sequences are great. The opening sequence, the cold opens, it's good. It's not the best, but it's good.
Good, yeah.
It's not GoldenEye good, but it's good.
Yeah.
And you know, the last part, you know, the way like Elliot Carver died at the end was ridiculous, though. We had the saw coming after him. First of all, you're like, he's not going to hear that. And he hits a button. Of course, Bond knows what button to hit. And then when Bond like puts them in front of it and then kind of lets go of him, and then Elliot Carver instead of just moving out of the way is like, kind of like powers when that dude's like going no, and that roller's coming to him. It's like a mile away. It kind of reminded me of that. Like, dude, how can you not get the fuck out of the way of that thing? Like, it doesn't. That's what I'm saying. It's like, you know, and when they cut that, they're like, okay, that works. You know, how many takes was that? And why was that?
By next episode, I'm going to get a clip of that right there. I promise you.
Yeah, the way he is
going through.
You know, it's like,
because I feel we're going to need it for a lot of the scary scenes coming up for some of these movies.
Yeah, God, man. But yeah. So that's kind of that movie in a nutshell. But
what kind of trivia you got?
Well, so one of them was, as of that movie, or as of 2019, because I was looking up different facts and, you know, about this movie, and I think it still holds true because of the Bond movies that are made since then. There's only one of them, really. Jonathan Pryce has a distinction of being the only James Bond villain who has with a spouse in a James Bond movie.
Really?
An actual married spouse, not a girlfriend, not whatever. Scaramanga had Maud Adams and all that stuff, but like he didn't. They weren't married. Like he was actually married to this woman, and then he kills her. So anyway, it's the third movie and the final movie, because it didn't happen in the Craig movies, to show James Bond in his Royal Navy Commander uniform. You see that with the Jack Wade scene when he's meeting up with him. That's the last time you saw Bond in his naval uniform. There is a little part in here in the beginning of the movie where you see a very young Gerard Butler.
Really?
And he's one of the seamen in the Devonshire who was fired upon and everything. And it's kind of funny because he was like later considered to be Bond when Daniel Craig got picked. But he was off. He was actually offered, but he turned it down because he thought he'd be like typecast or whatever. So
now he's doing Greenland too.
And now he's doing Greenland too. And
so we'll be typecast, but no offense. Sorry, Gerard. No offense.
And obviously Gerard Butler's done.
He's done good movies.
Yeah, he's done
okay. Say Daniel Craig's been. I wouldn't say he's been typecast.
No, I mean he does the Knives Out movies now.
A lot of.
I did watch that new one too. I never did mention that to you. I did watch that new one, and I thought that was better than the second one.
Yeah,
it wasn't as good as the first, but I thought it was better than the second one. The estimated body count in this, because all the soldiers and all the seamen, I should say, being shot in the water and all the destruction and everything.
Crazy.
It is. I read that the body count's right around 200, like a little under 200, making it the highest death toll in any James Bond movie. Now, last movie, or which movie was it? I think I said maybe his last movie that Bond killed more people in that movie himself than any other movie. Yeah. But this had the highest death total.
Oh, it was the one with Timothy Dalton, the License to Kill, I think it was.
License to Kill? Okay. Well, that does make sense because that was a super violent movie. Yeah. This has, because he killed, it was like 47 people or something.
Yeah, that's what you said.
So this had just under 100 people overall, or 197, like right around there. I think it was this. I think they said 197 killed overall in this movie. It's quite a bit. A really in the Elliot Carver's introduction scene I have here, one of his reporters announced, this is kind of a weird little fact. One of his reporters, because he has a whole screen, he's got everyone reporting to him, and they announces a flood in Pakistan, riots in Paris, and a plane crash in California. So in 2005, hundreds of like kids from like low-income Parisian suburbs rioted for a month after two kids accidentally electrocuted themselves in a transformer while trying to hide from the police, apparently. So there were actually riots in Paris.
Wow.
And then on top of that, in July 2010, Pakistan had one of the worst floods ever, and it killed like a couple thousand people. Wow. So there also were floods in Pakistan. And then in 2013, I don't know if it's pronounced Asiana Airlines or Asiana. It's ASIA, like Asia, then NA. Airlines Flight 214 crashed in San Francisco. So when they mentioned floods in Pakistan, riots in Paris, and plane crash in California, within the next 15 years, 16 years, all that stuff actually did happen. So it's kind of weird that he's a villain and he's trying to, get ahead of the news, and he actually kind of did in a way. And another really funny one, the last one I have here, is the original title of this movie. This goes so well with how kind of mishandled this movie was in a way, the script and everything. The original title of the movie was supposed to be called Tomorrow Never Lies, which makes sense, I guess, too. But there's a typo in the script, like one of the first drafts, and that was adopted by the producers themselves, and it says "Tomorrow Never Dies," and they use it so many times on there that they say, you know, what's this called? "Tomorrow Never Dies," because that word.
Lazy
So it
writing
was
like
used
that.
instead, yeah. So it's like they almost like they didn't pay attention, and there's a typo. The person writing it made a typo on there, and it's like, and they're kind of like, okay, whatever, that's fine. We'll just use that. Which kind of makes me feel like I said, it's like a microcosm of this movie. It's like, yeah, that's fine. We'll just go with that.
We'll run with it. That's
Cut
good
that.
enough.
That's fine. That we'll just move along with this, and we'll just cobble it all together into like, you know, it's kind of like Monty Python, the Holy Grail in a way. It's like a bunch of like skits combined into one movie that turns
Life
into
of
one
Brian,
film.
yeah, or I'm
The meaning
sorry,
of life, same
meaning of
with
life,
it too.
meaning of life, meaning of life.
But
Yep.
it's like you take a bunch of like little sequences and just cram them into, you know, together, and you just go step by step through the whole movie. But it's still, like I said, it's still fun to watch. It's not like I'm gonna sit there and like, oh, Tomorrow Never Dies is all, you know.
No.
I'll watch it, and there's some good things about it. But next to Goldeneye, it just it's a second Bond syndrome. And you know, I mentioned this to my brother the other day too. It was like, you know, Connery had a better second movie than his first,
Mm-hmm.
and then Lazenby never had a second movie. Roger Moore's second movie was not as good as his first, and that was generally renowned as his worst movie, The Man with the Golden Gun. It was not as good as Live and Let Die, and even after Man with the Golden Gun was made, they were worried that the franchise was going to die until they made The Spy Who Loved Me. And then, so the next one, Timothy Dalton, critically, they say License to Kill is not as good as Living Daylights. Now, I personally like License to Kill better, but most people, for whatever reason, don't. Pierce Brosnan comes around. Tomorrow Never Dies is not as good as Goldeneye. And it's not as good as Goldeneye. I don't think anyone thinks this. I don't know one person who thinks it's really as good as Goldeneye. Unless they're saying it in jest or trying to, you know, make a bit out of it. Daniel Craig, Quantum of Solace. I'm a Quantum of Solace apologist. I like Quantum of Solace more than pretty much anybody does. Not as good as Casino Royale. So besides Connery, who had a better second one, all the other ones at Lazenby didn't even have a second one, so you can't even count him. All the other ones, their second movies were not as critically acclaimed as their first ones. So it's just kind of something that happens. But it doesn't matter because the franchise endures, and the third ones are usually better, usually a step up. And if you're lucky enough to have a third one, and in, you know, Craig's and Pierce Brosnan's instance, you know, he had a Role Is Not Enough, which was better than Tomorrow Never Dies. And then you have Daniel Craig, which Skyfall was better than Quantum of Solace. But yeah, you know, it happens, and this is probably a letdown for a lot of people. But hey, it made a shitload of money, and the next one got green lighted pretty easily, so it did its job.
Yeah. Really awesome. Awesome digging into this flick tonight. It was it's crazy. The 18th James Bond here tonight that we've covered. Next week we'll be at our not week 2 weeks from tonight, our 19th James Bond flick. But a lot of good stuff, my man. Please tune in coming up here tomorrow night. We are going to be digging into a 5 and 5 of Sam Raimi's directorial smorgasbord of films. So much to pick from: westerns, horrors, actions, superhero movies. It's going to be good. He just came out with a brand new movie, getting a lot of pretty good reviews at the movie theater. So we're going to be talking about him here tomorrow night at 7 p.m. So please dig into that. Also, please check out the Hookup on Music. Check out all the awesomeness there. Check out our good friend Mr. Michael Griffith, who's his radio show on Friday nights on Chirp Radio. Yeah. 2 weeks ago, he started off by playing a Primus song, A Man After My Own Heart. I messaged him yesterday. I said, thank you for playing some Primus. And he plays a lot of other awesome stuff. So check out all of that coolness. Check out everything else at the Sadistic Penguin Studios, his It's getting drafty in here. The wrestling draft that just happened. Check out that. You were not wrong with picking The Amazing Demolition as an awesome track.
Goddamn right.
But a lot of good stuff there. Also, check out the last Frame to Frame. Seems that they dug into the RoboCop series. I just got around to their last one. I just watched the Running Man remake. It was good for a remake. It's a different movie.
I haven't seen that yet.
It's a different one than the original one. So, I think the original one is like a fun bad. I like it. Is that in a regard? This movie's more of like an action movie that could possibly be bordering on really good. It depends on. But if you go into it comparing, it's just nothing alike.
It's a losing battle when you go in and do that immediately. That's the problem.
It's a big losing battle. So, but if you have ever seen the remake of RoboCop versus the old one, I already know where I stand there. The original is a lot better. But that being said, please check out all the other episodes we've done of Shaken and Not Stirred. You could go all the way back to the beginning and go all the way through, and you could hear our rants, our laughs on The Man with the Golden Gun, which was a great one, all the way to our fun with Moonraker. We've had a lot of laughs on this show, so we got
all
a lot
more movies were just fun, weren't they?
They were. And we got some more laughs, because I know when you're going to go off angrily in a couple episodes, I'm going to be laughing.
Oh, 1 month. Yeah. I'm not even doing any research. I'm just going to shit on that thing for just 50 minutes.
Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Adam. And we will be talking soon, everyone out here. Have a good night.
And go buy an Infinity J30.
Thank you.